Welcome to our channel, where we bring you the latest updates on Nigerian politics. In a bold move, the Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF, has made it clear that the northern region cannot be coerced into supporting President Bola Tinubu's re-election bid in 2027. This stance comes after the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, urged the North to wait until 2031. Let's listen to Rufai Oseni as he dissects the issue with other top personalities.
Pro-North social political organization Arewa Consultative Forum and some prominent voices from the northern region of Nigeria have said that the region cannot be forced to re-elect President Tinubu in 2027. The ACF and other northern leaders declared that no individual could claim to be the mouthpiece of the North, and as such it is wrong for the chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Abdullahi Ganduje, to ask for the North to wait till 2031 before vying for the presidency. Joining us now on the show to respond to Ganduje's foreclosure of the presidency to the Southwest in 2027 is Dr. Usman Bogaji, a political activist, civil society leader, former National Secretary of the defunct Action Congress, and a member of Arewa Consultative Forum. Let's go straight to it, sir. Are you saying now that this idea of one good turn deserves another, the South will do 8 years, the North will do 8 years, is already off the table? Because that was the general refrain that the South will be allowed to finish their term. So does the North want to vie for presidency in 2027 and break the rhythm? Is there anything we ought to know as regards that, sir?
Well, Rufai, I think this is a very familiar conversation in the last 25 years. But I think so much has changed that that kind of conversation is actually outdated. Yes, politics is about popular participation. Yes, inclusion is very important. Yes, people need to make sense or have good reasons to be able to participate. But I think what has happened in the last 25 years is the fact that we have tried these kind of models of North and South and this and that, and the country is only going down the drain. So I think it is time to start a new conversation, to start rethinking how can we have democracy with development. We're having democracy with all these things of North and South and East and West and whatever you have, and the country is not developing. If anything, it's actually de-developing. It is going down the drain. All the indices of development are, taking a nosedive. So I would rather say, while yes, it's important that we recognize and every part of this country and become inclusive, but I think we will be losing out on the challenges that are facing us if we continue with all the problems we have to start talking about North and South. I would rather be part of a new conversation that's, start thinking about what team do we require that can fix this country that is about to break down, that is about to be run aground by reckless and irresponsible politicians who have held power in the last 25 years. And they are not ashamed of the fact that they have not performed well. And they are still talking about, ambitions. Everybody has an ambition to be this, ambition to be that. People are talking about their turn and their turn. And what have you done with those turns? You are destroying this country. We can't continue with these kind of conversations. Yes, like I said, we have to recognize everybody, we have to include everybody, we have to consult, but this should not deteriorate to a level where we start looking at turn-by-turn kind of presidency, or we start looking at this, or become fixated with this formula of North and South, and some people say, oh, this tribe has not had its chance, so they have to have their chance. Okay, those tribes who have had their chance, what have they done? So is it a tribal matter in the 21st century? Right. Please.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Maguchi. But my immediate question to you is, why now? I don't think you were this fervent, or the ACF was this fervent when it was said to be the turn of the North. And I believe this concept of turn by turn was done in such a way as to ensure that everyone in Nigeria is well represented. Why is it that it's now that it's the turn, let me use the word, of the South that the Northerners realized that, or at least the Arewa Consultative Forum realized that it shouldn't be turn by turn, it should be by who ought to be there. And then I want to ask you if you agree with what your the National Publicity Secretary of the ACF said. He said that in 2015, and I'm quoting directly, we were sold a dummy of anti-corruption. We were sold a dummy of many things, and people have realized that it wasn't true. Do you agree with this statement that in 2015 you were sold, what could he be said in his words as the dummy of anti-corruption?
Yeah, it's a little better than last time.
Okay, I'll try to project my voice so you can hear me a bit clearer. I'd asked you in summary, just asked you questions around why now? Why didn't you express this position when the North benefited from the turn-by-turn arrangement? And I believe that turn-by-turn arrangement came about as a result of making it fair and equitable so that at least Nigeria is represented at that national level. Why now? Why is it now a bad idea?
Okay. For me, this is not the first time I started talking about it. I talked about it from 2019 through to 2023. Before then, even from 2015, I have consistently said Buhari's presidency was a disaster. And there are so many other ways that, things that he did by, putting too many Northerners in the security sector for no benefit at all from the North. And I thought Buhari's experience is itself sufficient evidence that this idea of putting somebody from one part of the country to become president doesn't really work. It doesn't make sense. Because what do you want him to do? To favor his own part of the country and to abandon others? This is very naive, to say the least. So the point I'm making is that you can achieve inclusion and not at the expense of development. One way to do it, for example, there is no part of the country that has any monopoly of competence. There are competent Nigerians among the Southwest, among the Southeast, among the South-South, Northeast, Northwest, North Central. Why don't you pick those competent Nigerians from the different parts of the country to fix and run your country? Why do you go for people who are barely educated, people who are crooks, people who clearly have no idea of where to take this country, who cannot engage the world, who don't even understand? All they know is primitive consumption and primitive accumulation and very perverse tastes and consumptions and just simply running the country down. So if this is why I said inclusion is a very, very critical aspect of governance. And you can achieve that and still achieve development by bringing more competent people. There are technocrats who can fix the energy sector, who can fix the transportation sector, who can improve all the infrastructure. The few that have come into government have been elbowed out. Some of them have been chased out of government because corruption will not accept the kind of thing that they want to do. And I feel very sad. I mean, we and quite a number of Nigerians, and by the way, across the board, and not just the North, the East, the West, we stood up to the military during the time of Abacha. We fought for democracy. But this is not the kind of democracy we want to see. We want a democracy that takes cognizance, of competence and recognizes knowledge in the 21st century as the greatest capital and try to mobilize. And Nigeria has a lot of these talents, has a lot of competent people. Why don't we bring them into governance? Why don't they lead the process? Why do we need some politicians who don't understand the world in the 21st century, who have no record of doing anything, competent anywhere, and all their life is life of sleaze and corruption, and because they have accumulated money through those corrupt practices, then they buy everybody off, and now we have a National Assembly that is just, literally for sale. Only money. I mean, they cannot stand up to the president on anything. And so this is the point. I think we have to change the conversation. because we need a new narrative. And we have to be constantly aware, and I keep repeating this fact, that 2030, just another 5 years from now, we're going to be 300 million. Already today, we have more than 33 million people on the verge of starvation. These are United Nations bodies that are quoting these figures. We have a deficit in grains alone for last year, more than 30 million metric tons. We have 20 million children out of school, the highest around the world. We have all these terrible statistics, which we're not addressing. These politicians are not discussing these matters. They are discussing of who will, my ambition, my turn, who will be the next president. We have to do a coalition to chase President Tinubu out, just like we did with President Jonathan. Okay, when you chase him out, what are you going to do? What are you going to offer? What is the new thinking?
What is the new thinking? I'm glad you've said that. I'm glad you've said that, because that frames my next question to you, which is that we already know the, shall I say, traditionally what happens in elections in Nigeria, which is that the numbers come from the north. Now, if we're saying that it's time to do away with the system of zoning, then ultimately everything will be tipped to the favor of the north. We know that the system is a zero-sum game. So how do you balance it out? When you're speaking of inclusivity and representation and all of these things, how do you balance out the fact that the population that you're saying will be 300 million in 2030 according to your statistics?
The Constitution is already doing that. The Constitution is already doing that, because the House of Representatives is based on population.
We're talking about the presidency here.
I mean, Northerners are the majority. So, sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm speaking of the presidential ticket specifically, because this is the one in contention.
Okay. I think the presidential ticket should not be clouded by this North and South thing. I think we have to prioritize knowledge and competence and courage and character. In fact, the most important thing is the character. Honestly, for me, it's yes, the North is, in terms of size, is 78% of the size of the country. The whole of the states of the Northeast, you can put them in Niger, they will still have another space for the whole of the side of the Northeast, and even there will be land remaining. Yes, that is it. This is geography. There is nothing we can do about that. But the point I'm making is that we must not lose sight of the fact that this country is sinking. And if we continue with that kind of North and South thing, then we lose sight of the fact that this country cannot develop. And I think we need to change the conversation. Okay. Now, in doing so, yes, the votes come from the North. I mean, President Tinubu got over 60% of his votes, from the North.
Okay, doctor,
and
sir.
All the policies that he is yes.
Doctor, sir, if it was a Northerner that was president, would you be talking this way? And I ask for a reason.
I did talk this way when President Buhari was there.
No.
Rufai, where were you?
I have facts. Doctor, sir, I deal with facts. I have facts for you. And facts are very hard. In 2019...
Please, let me have them.
In 2019, the ACF, Arewa Consultative Forum, declined support for only Buhari, but they said they will support other northern candidates vying for presidency. Yes. So that's why I asked.
Now that's the ACF.
If it was
Wait a minute.
If it was a northerner that was as president, would you be talking this way?
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. If you want the ACF's position, then you should get the spokesman of the ACF to answer that question. I, as Usman Bugaji, has not made that statement, and I don't believe, and I have made it very clear, that while inclusion is important, I do not insist that a president must come from a particular part of the country, beyond the fact that we should make sure that we prioritize competence, we prioritize character, We prioritize the courage to do the right thing.
So, I asked you the first question, sir. I asked you the first question. If it was a northerner that was president, would you be saying all of this? Because see, you can talk about competence. We all talk about competence. And when you look for competence, there are people in every region in this country that are competent enough to be president, from the north to the south. So it's not a want of.
I said.
No, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute, sir.
Every part of this country
it's not a want of competence, but there's also an unwritten rule that says, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. The north does XYZ term, the south does XYZ term.
I don't believe in that, Rufai.
So I'm asking you.
I don't believe in scratching backs.
If it was a northerner that was president, would you still talk this way? I believe in development too. I'm on your side on development. But if it was a northerner that was president, would you still talk this way?
But Rufai.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you have really followed what I've been saying. During the time of Buhari, I was at the forefront in criticizing the way he was ruling. And in 2019, I didn't support him. In 2023, I didn't even support APC. I made it very clear. So the point I'm making is that, yes, there are people who say the kind of things you are saying, but I'm not one of them. I have my own view. I have my own understanding. I'm a northerner, and I care for the north, and I feel every part of this country should be developed. Otherwise, we cannot have peace. In fact, you have to go global. And you know this very well, that a lot of global institutions are trying to reduce inequality around the world, the climate change, because whatever happens to one part of the world is going to affect the other part of the world. The globe has become a village. So the point I'm making is, let us not continue with this conversation of north and south. Let us change the conversation and start a new conversation about how do we get competent people with character and courage to run this country.
Real quickly, before I leave, is it that you will now support an Atiku Abubakar? Do you believe he can get the job done with all these traits and characteristics? Because I know you have closeness to Atiku Abubakar, sir.
In 2023, I supported Atiku Abubakar because of all the candidates that came out. He was the one that I thought was going to do it.
So you're an
That
Atiku
was
man.
it.
Is it safe to say you're an Atiku man?
That's my own choice. And everybody has his own choice.
And because Atiku will probably run in this election against Tinubu.
Wait a minute.
You're pushing your man?
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Rufai.
Yes, sir.
Rufai, listen to me. I'm not an Atiku man. I'm not anybody's man. When I was in ACN, Atiku left. And I remained. If I was his man, I would have left with him.
All right.
So I'm my own person. Okay. And I don't believe in anybody's man. I believe that people should have the courage of their own conviction. And therefore, I'm not going to be anybody's man.
But if Atiku runs again, would you support him, sir?
Right, I will support him. It doesn't matter who he is.
If Atiku runs again...
Hello, say it again.
If Atiku runs again in 2027, would you support Atiku Abubakar?
No. In fact, what I have been saying, if you have been listening, is that this idea of supporting one candidate with whatever combination of balancing of the ticket to go into the villa, to lock the gates, and then the wife will become the Queen Elizabeth of the First, and the children will become some prince and princess of Saudi monarch, and start behaving the way. This is outdated. We must not allow, this country to fall into the hands of this kind of people. I would rather, and I'm not talking about Atiku here, I'm talking about all of them. I would rather we do a collegiate leadership where we get the best and the brightest, and there are a lot of them in this country, to come forward and salvage their country. That's my view.
Thank you very
much. And
much.
I've expressed this view openly in so many places.
All right, thank you.
So I'm not going to support someone because he has been an old politician who has been around for some time, and then a combination of... I am not. I've made this point very clear.
All right. Okay, I asked a question earlier, and I just want to pose that to you. According to the Publicity Secretary of the ACF, Arewa Consultative Forum, he had said that Nigerians were sold, an anti-corruption dummy in 2015. And from what I can hear from you, if you assess the last, let's say, 8-10 years of the APC government, you're not very satisfied. What are some of the lessons that we can learn from where you feel like they haven't performed very well as a government? What are some of the lessons that we can learn ahead of 2027?
Well, my view about the APC government is very well known. I have made it very clear. I have, put it in writing. It has appeared. And if you want the view of the ACF, they have a spokesman who can speak for them and probably defend whatever they say. But look, for me, the APC government from Buhari to date is a disaster for this country. And I'm not saying PDP is going to do any better. In fact, at the moment, and I've said this severally, the APCs, the PDPs, the ABGAs, the Labours, I don't trust any of these political parties as they stand at the moment. I don't. And what I would want, what I think will work for Nigeria is, like I said, a collegiate leadership made of the best and the brightest. And we did attempt to do that. If you remember, we launched a platform called Rescue Nigeria Project. Ituaho Egadalo was part of it. Pato Tomi was part of it. Tairu Jega and a number of other people. What we were trying to do then, and we have not given up, is to get some of the best and the brightest people who can really, fix the problems of this country. Not politicians who are just out to make money and who do not even understand the terrain. They are oblivious of what is happening around the world.
Okay.
And therefore, they don't read books, they don't engage in debates, they don't share information around the world, and they are fixated. And how do they distribute rice to these poor, ordinary Nigerians who have no idea what is happening? So
Dr.
Bugaje,
I'll interject
steal
at
more
this
money,
point.
build more houses.
Yes.
This is the kind of thing that we want to get away from.
Your point is duly noted. Let me interject at this point. I want to speak to the phenomenon of incumbency. Because earlier in the week, we heard a commentary from former Governor El Rufai where he was saying that he thinks President Tinubu will get the good luck Jonathan treatment. You've already expressed your views about the performance of President Tinubu. You've also expressed your views about President Buhari's performance. However, he was able to get a second term. So why do you think these two southern presidents are the ones who are being perceived or, predicted to only do one term? So what do you think are the decisive factors in that?
I think you need to get back to the time of Jonathan and try to see the kind of, position I've held. As far as I can remember, I've been consistent on this matter. If you cannot perform, you leave. What is the performance of the budget of 2024 for this particular president? My figure is that, the budget performance was only 22%. Do you think, these kind of people should be allowed to continue? Now forget about that he's from the south or from the north or from anywhere. For me, wherever he comes from, if he cannot perform, he should leave. Simple. So this idea of saying that, okay, because I'm from the north, I need a northern. We have tried it. Even those who tried it, they have now seen through that this thing does not work. Okay. What will work for this country is people of character, people of competence, people with the courage to be able to do the right thing. And there are many, but the political culture and the political arrangement will not allow them. And you don't wait for things to, for these politicians to allow you. We have to struggle to find our way, find a platform, mobilize the country, and try. This incumbency that you're talking about, look at what happened in Senegal.
Okay.
I mean, Macky Sall was there.
Okay.
And yet these young people, one of them even came from the prison.
Okay,
so things are changing. Look at the event in Kenya.
Dr.
So
Osman,
these things are, the dynamics are different.
Dr. Osman, as we wrap up, if you had not supported Atiku in the last election, who would you have supported next?
honestly, I didn't know Peter Obi enough to support him. I've been in this business for 25 years, and I saw there are ways you measure people, you size them up. And so the people that I saw around him are not people that are ready, to take the national, to take the nation together. They were all basically reacting or angry about a particular part of the country. And they were all fuming and trying to go on a vengeance. So that was my worry.
Okay.
And I would have supported Adewale of the SDP.
That means if you are
Adewale Adebayo.
So the question,
he comes across to me. Just listen to me.
We need to wrap up. Who would you have supported if you had not supported Atiku? Could it be Peter Obi?
What I'm saying is that I would have supported Adewale Adebayo.
Okay, Adewale Adebayo.
Because he comes across to me as somebody who understands the terrain.
Thank you so much,
of the SDP.
Thank you so much.
He comes across as somebody who understood this country.
Thank you so much.
I don't have
really
full background of what he has been and this, but as a person, he comes across as somebody who knows what he wants to do.
So you will have supported Adewale Adebayo. We need to go. Thank you so much, Dr. Osman.
That's all for today on the Arewa Consultative Forum's stance on President Tinubu's re-election. The Northern region's refusal to be forced into supporting Tinubu's bid has significant implications for Nigerian politics. As the country gears up for the 2027 elections, one thing is clear: the North will not be swayed by pressure. Thanks for joining us.